Excellent.
All right, hey everybody. Oh man, all of our
Hey.
stuff's dropping down into the cup. Oh, and flying violently out of the cup.
We can't seem to keep it.
But yeah, welcome to the 606th episode. Oh no, that should have been next week's. We'll do again. We'll do two episodes of the same number just to fuck with everyone's
Yeah.
filing system.
I like that the couch gag of our podcast is just that you come up with a different number each time for which episode it is.
It's the only contribution I bring to this podcast. Oh, that background indeed.
That is pretty funny.
It's pretty. Actually, I don't even know who's behind it. I'm gonna move you down for a second. Oh, just a spooky man in blackness.
Ooh.
But anyway, we're here with OK Podcasts with bad people, and we're talking about the 1953 movie starring Vincent Price, House of Wax, not to be confused with the modern shitty one, and our biggest scares in video games. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, we're going to have a tasty little appetizer brought to you courtesy of the always wonderful Mr. Robert.
Yeah. So I this is probably the most relevant nerd deep dive we've had. I guess last week's was too. Um, but I told you yesterday that I had watched all of the houses and all of the wax. And I told you that because I watched all three versions of House of Wax. Did you realize that the 1953 version was itself a remake?
Yes.
Okay. So I watched the original, and I'm going to save my thoughts on that for like as we're going, because the original and the 53 version are pretty similar. But the 2005 version is kind of a remake in name only. So I figured it could be kind of fun to talk about that one at the start. Um, it's pretty different in terms of the plot, and I would say it's a lot closer to something like House of a Thousand Corpses or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's like a movie about a group of teenagers caught out in a rural someplace, and they get lured into this little town after their car breaks down by a killer who wants to fill the town with wax figures that he's made by coating his victims in wax.
Damn.
Yeah. So pretty different. But there are some other changes that I thought were funny. And so here's our first quiz. This one's I made up one and the other three are true, and you have to guess which one I made up.
Okay, this is going to be very difficult. I can already tell.
So is the difference A, the killer's hands were deformed when his mother poured molten wax over them? B, the mask worn by the killer is very obviously a mask in this version? C, the victims remain alive even after having been cast in wax in this version? Or D, there is a literal house made of wax in this version?
C sounds so dumb that it has like it feels real. Like there would be a point in the movie where someone breaks off the mask and someone's like, "Help me, I'm in the wax," and then everyone goes, "Meh." But I could also see a house of wax to be melted for like the big set piece at the end. We have Will in the chat saying it's C.
Remember, you're looking for the one that I made up.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, did you make up the fact that they're alive inside of the wax? Oh, he's jumping back to A. What was the first one again? Oh, his
The
hands
killer's
were.
hands were deformed when his mother poured molten wax over them.
I also want to go with that one just because I don't know. Like it could work, but it's a lot of all the mommy trauma. I'm gonna go with
You
A.
locking in A? You got it. It was
Woo!
A. Yeah, the others are all true. They like it's pretty like fun actually that like the people who are in wax are still alive because they'll be like looking around and shit, and it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
um, intense.
You did it, Will.
But but yeah, the wax, the house of wax in this version is literally a house made entirely of wax, and it's actually like a pretty cool looking set. The all of the like furniture inside is genuinely made from completely from wax.
Ugh.
Um, and then I guess they just like coated the walls and stuff. And you called it correctly on what the uh, big finale is too. So
I'm watching.
some good insight from you.
No, just...
But I would say that like one of the things about this movie that I really liked was the set design, because it's not just the House of Wax. They also built an entire small town set. It was designed by it was inspired by a city in Ethiopia that's called Asmara, which was built by Italian colonists in the 1930s, and it has this really cool Art Deco style. So it's like a pretty unique place. There's, in addition to the big like wax museum, there's this really cool Art Deco style church that they have. But moving on from the sets, another change from the movie, or from the 53 version, is that in this version, there are actually two killers. They're brothers, Bo and a mute. And the mute has a name, which is, I'm assuming, a tribute to the 53 movie. Is it A, Henry, B, Igor, C, Vincent, or D, Scott?
Hold on. What movie are you talking about? Are you talking about the original?
No, the 2005 version.
Okay, sorry. I thought we were talking about the original one. That's why I was like...
sorry.
Because then when you went... That's why I was like picturing really old wax, and then you're like, it's a tribute to the 53 version, and I was like, it was tributing to the future? I'm going to look a lot.
Yeah, I said at the start I was going to save my thoughts on the 33 version for like while we're talking, because it's so similar and so clearly like the 53 version really is a remake of the 33, whereas the 2005 is not at all.
Gotcha. I'm going to go with Vincent just because Vincent Price is the biggest name behind the movie.
That's 2 for 2.
Woo!
So, part of the advertising campaign for this movie revolved around playing up the fact that the audience really hated one of the film's actresses.
Paris Hilton.
Damn it. 3 for 3.
See, I've seen the newest House. I've seen the 2000.
Okay.
House of Wax. I thought you were asking me about the first one. That's why I was like...
Gotcha. But yeah, I guess they sold shirts for it that said "Watch Paris Die," and that was like a part of their promotion. And I guess a lot of people were like cheering in theaters and whatnot. But
I actually don't remember. Like, I don't remember a lot, but I know I said, does she actually? I'm sure she does die in the movie, right?
Yeah, she does.
So wait, are the people? Wait, so how? Like, I don't remember because like they were alive the whole time. They were in wax.
Well, not all of them are alive, but like they don't die during the waxing process, and they put some of the people into wax while they're still alive. So there are like scenes in the movie. There's like when the main character's boyfriend gets turned into wax. That's what happens, and this other guy finds him and is like trying to peel the wax off, but it's like just got in with his skin. So he's like peeling the wax and the skin off at the same time. It's a pretty gross effect. Yeah, Dervik's got it.
Gross.
So, yep. So, I mentioned the set design being pretty cool earlier, but I think some of the effects are also pretty cool. There's a lot of the CG that doesn't hold up super well, but the climax, like you predicted, is, well, I guess you watched the movie, so you didn't predict it. But the whole house catches on fire and is melting. It looks pretty cool. And there's a lot of scenes of, like, the actors trudging through that wax. But obviously, they couldn't have them actually trudging through molten wax. They had to substitute it for something.
Okay.
So you get to guess what they used. Was it A, very wet red clay, B, peanut butter, C, butterscotch pudding, or D, Elmer's glue with brown food coloring?
I want to go butterscotch pudding immediately, but I'm going to think about it. They wouldn't do peanut butter just because, one, that would get kind of expensive, I think. And two, allergies would be a big concern, I think. Like, nut allergies. Like, if any one person on set had a peanut allergy. The Elmer's glue sounds like that would probably tear out hair and stuff. And then What was the first one?
Very wet red clay.
That one could also be it. But I don't think clay would have like the shininess that pudding. I'm gonna go with butterscotch pudding.
I'm afraid this is where your streak ends. It was the peanut butter.
Really?
Yeah.
No one had a peanut allergy in the early 2000s. Weird. Okay.
All right. Well, since you've seen it, hopefully you don't remember this last bit.
I don't remember anything from the movie except that it was Paris Hilton and that the main character is a girl. I didn't even remember that there was two killers or that there was a literal House of Wax.
Well, so the movie features a really dumb twist ending, and so does my nerd deep dive, because, like the movie, I told you that there were only two brothers/killers, but in the end, it's revealed that there was actually a third, who was a character who you met earlier in the film, and he has kind of a weird job. Is he A, a toll booth operator, B, a tow truck driver, C, a night knocker, or D, a guy who cleans up roadkill?
What is a night knocker? Again, I know I've heard that.
A night knocker's like a role that sort of small town police departments do sometime, where they hire a guy who's like not a full police officer, but he kind of patrols at night.
It can't be a Twitch streamer, Dervik. He said kind of odd, not totally sad. I'm going to go with Roadkill one. That one sounds the weirdest. The other ones don't sound weird.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a 4 for 5. It's pretty good.
I still can't believe they do peanut butter. But weird. Nice.
So yeah, that's our nerd deep dive for this podcast.
That was a good one. Well, all right. We're going to move into We're going to go into the past now.
Indeed.
And we're going to talk about something that happened just before Will was born in the 1950s. We're going to talk about 1953's Vincent Price 3D masterpiece, House of Wax.
Indeed.
So, I believe this is the first time either of us had seen this movie, correct?
Yes.
So, upon seeing the movie, did you recognize who Vincent Price was?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay. Not even his voice or anything?
No.
Oh, okay.
I liked him, though.
Yeah, he's
pretty
really
great in
good.
this, yeah.
So, what were your just kind of opening opinions on the movie?
So I would say, like, during the start of this movie, I was super into it. And I think it's pretty good the whole time, but I just felt like kind of let down by the end. And the reason that was, after watching it, I went and watched James Rolfe's review of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something that sort of like really crystallized for me what the problem was, which is that the best scenes in the movie by a pretty wide margin are the scenes from the opening. And so, like, even though the rest of it's pretty good, it just feels anticlimactic because the best parts have already happened.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. I was like, wait, what? But, like, for an example, like, what were some of your favorite scenes from the opening, I guess?
So I would say, like, really the whole, like, the scenes where he's showing the people, where he's, like, talking with his investor, I think those are really well acted and engaging, and there's, like, a compelling conflict between them. The scenes where he's showing the people around the museum and talking with them are also great. There's some lines from those. There's one that I wrote down because I really liked it. The one where he's talking to them about his masterpiece, and he says, "My creations have some merit, I suspect, but in bringing back to life the lovely Marie Antoinette, I feel I have done my best work." So it's like sort of poetic, and it really like speaks to the artful way that his character thinks. But also, like, the fight scene that he has with Burke, his business partner, is really cool and well choreographed, and the burning of the museum is really great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's intense. There's something like beautiful and macabre about the way that the wax figures are melting. Yeah, I just like the opening is so solid, and I loved it.
The opening was very good, and I was honestly kind of surprised how the opening went. But the first thing I want to mention is I think it's funny that, like, the way you thought he spoke with the Marie Antoinette thing was very poetic. It's like, that's how he fucking talks in every movie he's in, is because Vincent Price was like a stage actor, and then he's one of those people who transitioned into film, but like kind of kept all of his sort of stage acting proclivities.
Yeah.
So he always has kind of like that weird, entrancing way of talking, which is what he's famous for.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I read though said that his career had been kind of stagnating before this movie also. And it like really took off after this movie. So it's also certainly possible that like some of that is that people kept casting him because they wanted him to keep doing this sort of character.
That would make more sense. Am I? Is my audio better now? Am I still really quiet? Sorry, Will was saying I was really quiet compared to you.
Yeah.
But a little better. Okay. Sorry, I have the volume turned up. Not sure why I'd be so quiet. Haven't messed with the mixers at all. But yeah, the fight scene was good. Is because I read like the 1 or 2 sentence like summary of the movie where it's an artist has his wax museum thing burned down, and then he goes on a mad quest for revenge.
Yeah.
Is I thought the whole movie would be him trying to get back at his business partner.
Yeah.
And then he just gets him right away. And I was just like, fuck, what's this movie going to be about? Like, then I was like, does he just turn into an insane person? And then the movie was like, yep.
Yeah, I was also really disappointed at like how fast he kills Burke. Like that's the one person he kills who it sort of feels like kind of justified, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rest of the people are clearly just victims. And there's like I don't know, you can build up a lot of great dramatic tension if like the guy who he really wants to get revenge on is like starting to get freaked out because there's this weird monster running around at night and it seems like maybe it has to do with his old business partner.
Like, I fully expected a scene where like he rebuilds the wax and then has his old business partner who he thinks is dead like invites him and then shows him all of the wax and then he's like, but I'm saving this spot for something very special, and that's where he would like end up killing him and posing him in it or something.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I can also respect the fact he's just like, nah man, I'm getting fucking revenge right now. And he kills him and gets away with it like really fast. Like he had clearly been planning, I'm going to sneak in, I'm going to choke him, then I'm going to throw him down an elevator shaft.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he, like, fakes his suicide, which is kind of interesting. I was expecting him, like, after he killed him, I was like, oh, he's tying that rope around him because he's going to lower him to the floor and then carry him off. But nope.
Nope. But I wonder, just because I'm not super great at putting myself into different time periods, is I'm very curious how that scene of the like faking the suicide like was handled in theaters. Because I feel like at the time for the 50s that was probably very, very like graphic.
Yeah.
Because like they show him like come down and like or whatever. Like they don't cut away and have him just get dropped down the shaft and then hear someone scream off camera. Like you see his body dead stop.
Yeah, and then there's like a weird Foley effect from him hitting the door.
I guess I didn't notice that when I was watching.
It sounds like kind of funny when he like hits the door. There's this like like slamming thing going on.
Weird. I guess I didn't notice because I was like, huh. But yeah, it's interesting. Aside from Vincent Price, I didn't. Aside from and then another character I want to bring up, there really didn't feel like there's any standout characters. The police guy was kind of interesting, and then Igor was interesting-ish. But, I mean, the true MVP of the movie is Paddleball Guy. He is the best character and also has the scariest part in the whole movie.
Yeah. I was like, the paddleball scene was one that I wrote down. It was really funny to me when I wasn't like thinking about this being a movie that they were selling based on the 3D gimmick.
Me either. And then he started doing it, and I was like, "Is this a fucking 3D movie?"
I didn't even realize it then. I was just like, "Why the fuck is there this paddleball scene?" I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, I should have picked up on it, I guess. But then when I watched James Rolfe's review, I was like, "Oh, that's why there's a scene where the paddleball guy like
is paddling
bounces
right into
it right at the camera."
But no, the scariest part of the movie is when he just starts catching all the paddle balls into his mouth. And I was like, that's disgusting. That's the worst thing that has happened in this movie so far.
Yeah,
But
it's pretty weird.
this movie also gave me a new thing to be like freaked out by, is the bodies in morgues suddenly sitting up from formaldehyde. I was just like, oh
Like,
man.
that's totally not a real thing, right?
I don't know.
It can't be.
I'm gonna look it up.
But it made me laugh because like that's a gag that they also do in the 33 version, and they explain it the exact same way. I feel like it was just a cheap jump scare, and then they like needed some way to explain it. But
Let's see. No, not during cremation. I guess it happens during cremation. Okay.
but yeah, that bit made me laugh.
I thought when the body was sitting up that it was the killer right away. I'm like, oh, is he just going to kill these guys right now? And then there's like, no. Because it also made it sound like the corpse made noise. Like it went,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is that not a dead person? And then they're just like, that's something you gotta get used to. Corpses just get up sometimes because of the goo we put in them. And I was just like, oh.
I just feel like I would have seen another morgue scene in some other piece of media where a body sat up because of formaldehyde, if that was an actual thing.
I truly was willing to believe it was a real thing until you questioned it, because I'm like, if anyone else would have seen this in something else, it would have been Robert. And now I'm disappointed.
well, I mean, you say you're disappointed, but you were saying earlier that was a new thing for you to be terrified of.
But I
so.
wanted to use it in something. But now I know that it's not real. I'm like, oh.
I mean, I don't know for sure. I just don't believe it.
I just Googled it and I couldn't find anything about it. The only thing that I saw is that sometimes when a body's being cremated, due to the heat and the warping, the body will sort of like fold up into a fetal position sometimes.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
But if there's already a corpse on fire, I have other things to be scared of.
Yeah.
But let's see, where's some other things? I just really like Vincent Price. This was the first time where I've seen Vincent Price not start off as the evilest man. Like, every time I've seen him, he always plays like either a creepy person, which I guess he was kind of creepy in an artistic sense at the beginning, talking to his painting his mannequins. But he's always either immediately the villain who's acting very charming to a great earlier one of him. Oh, The Last Man on Earth. That was actually the other movie we were thinking of watching of him.
Video cut out?
Oh, did it?
Oh. Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay.
It looks like the stream is frozen too, so it may have just been an internet thing.
Oh, because the stream's going fine over here. Is The Last Man on Earth. The only reason we didn't do that one is because it was a zombie film, and honestly, I don't really care that much for zombie films. But I heard it was very good. But he always is either like a very outright villain or like a charming villain. Everyone's like, oh, it's just nice Dr. McKinley. And then it's like, McKinley eats babies. And then you're like, oh no, we never suspected it. And like, but how could you not? It's Vincent Price.
Yeah.
It's not really a zombie? Oh, okay. From reading the summary, it just made it sound like it was about zombies. So that's why I was not about it. So I may have been wrong. It's based on I Am Legend. It's based on the Will Smith film. That's crazy.
Well, was there an I Am Legend before that, or it was like a short story or something?
Yeah, it was.
Or a novel?
It's I believe it's a novella or a short story. I don't think it's a full book, but I might be wrong about it. I was just being dumb and making a dumb goof joke. But because based on seeing Vincent Price's movies and seeing the wax figurine of the Marie Antoinette at the beginning, which I have to admit looks really good. So good, in fact, I thought it was already a corpse person. I thought that was going to be the thing immediately. She was already turning people into mannequins. But he was just a nice guy that was wronged. And then the other thing I don't understand is how he made that wax mask. Spoilers for the end of the movie.
Yeah, that was something that like really stretched my suspension of disbelief too. I was like the whole time I was watching, I was hoping that it would turn out that the like burned face was a mask because that would have been like easy to believe.
That's what I
Whereas
actually.
like yeah, the idea that he made a wax mask that was just a perfect
Perfect.
Vincent Price face that moved like a normal human face was pretty difficult to believe.
I mean, I did like the shot at the end of the movie when she like hits him and it breaks. That did look pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I don't know, it bothered me a little bit just because you can tell that they're sort of editing around it. Like it's cut in a way where you don't actually see it until it's been hit at least once, so it's
Hmm.
like broken. Presumably because it like obviously would not look as good.
Yeah.
So like I can't hate them for that. But I actually the 33 version has that shot as well, and I felt like it actually looks better in the 33 version. But
It's interesting. And then another
yeah.
thing I want to give to the film's credit, which spoilers for the ending is it based on other movies I'd seen him in and just kind of horror movies at the time is I honestly didn't expect, or though I didn't not that I didn't expect, but I wouldn't have been surprised if the heroine didn't get away at the end. Is part of me expected, like, because especially when they set up the double execution scene at the end where Igor is going to behead whatever the guest Scott.
Yeah.
At the same time, as I figured what that would happen is they would save Scott and they'd get into the room just in time for the wax to get poured over her. So they, because even Vincent Price's character is his last name Jared?
It's Gerard.
Gerard is
Yeah.
is he says it's okay, they'll remember me in form like in immortality or whatever. Is it
Yeah,
looks
I
like,
wrote down the exact line. It's a pretty good line.
yeah, what was
He
he
says
saying?
he says the end will come quickly, my love. There is a pain beyond pain, an agony so intense it shocks the mind into instant oblivion. We'll find immortality together, for they'll remember me through you.
Okay, then maybe I heard it wrong. It made it sound like he was expecting to die in this area as well. So I figured it'd be a thing where he's like getting arrested as the wax is pouring over her, and he's just like, "Yes, I've done it. I've created my masterpiece," and then that's just where the movie would end. But then the cops save everything, and then I also wasn't sure if that was going to happen because they kept cutting to the overhead shot of the vat of wax, and I'm like, someone's going in there. It's either Vincent Price or the cop. It's one of the two.
Yeah, someone's getting waxed.
And I feel bad for Vincent Price. He just every fight he gets in, he gets thrown through a banister.
Yeah.
But
But,
yeah, overall, I thought it was a good movie for what it was.
yeah.
I didn't know that it was the first feature produced by a studio in 3D.
Was it?
That's what this sign says. The advertisement where it's the first feature produced by a major studio in 3D.
Oh, okay, by a major studio. Gotcha. Because I was gonna say like I knew it was one of the first like really notable major releases in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
I I just yeah. So that makes sense then. All of the facts are fitting together.
Like a little movie puzzle. I
Yeah.
guess he's chasing Kathy in this picture. Is that her name, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay.
The blonde-haired woman.
I do find it a little dumb that he wouldn't have shaved her head or something. Also, how did the wax not burn off all the hair and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like those are just questions that they were like audiences at this time aren't going to ask that. I mean, it's disappointing, but yeah, I would say like that's a question that I would throw on the same pile as the how can you make a wax mask that looks perfectly realistic pile. Like,
I guess I don't know. It's just because like they especially since they make such a big deal of showing how hot the wax is supposed to be.
yeah,
Like, and how much you see gets poured onto the mannequin earlier. I'm just like, that's like 400-degree wax that's getting poured onto human skin.
Yeah.
That would, even if it didn't burn the hair off, it would coat over the hair. But
Yeah.
meh.
Yeah. It's I think you just have to not think about it. But
I guess. What year was this movie supposed to be taking place in?
it's the early 1900s, actually.
Yeah, I figured that because they say the watch that they find is from the year 1900.
Yeah.
But I was just like, because, yeah, like, there's all the carriages and stuff, and I was just like, man, when is
Yeah, I
this?
remember having that moment for me was when Sue comes into Kathy's room and like turns on
On
the
the
oil
lamp.
lamp on the
Yeah,
wall, and I was like, "Wait, when the fuck is this movie happening?"
That's
But
yeah, I definitely felt that a bunch. Where I was just like, oh shit, is this the like late 1800s? And then the watch was like 1900, and I was like, oh no.
but yeah, that was a cool time period for a movie, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of funny. It's actually the 33 version was set in 33, so it's sort of funny that they decided with this one to go like all the way back to the early 1900s.
That is weird. Also, I guess the early 1900s was just a time no one was ever looking outside. Ever. Just during the chase scene at the beginning when he's just brazenly just creep chasing Sue through the streets, and she's not yelling for help.
Yeah.
And just no one is like looking outside because all the lights are on in storefronts that they're running past, and I'm just like, no? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That one wasn't as. I guess it's a little bit silly now that I think about it, but
Like, that was the only part in the movie that actively annoyed me. Is because it felt like such a horror trope thing that you see in like horror movies where like people die because of dumb shit they do.
Yeah.
I was just like, why aren't you yelling for help? Why aren't you doing anything to like help this man not chase you anymore?
yeah. I mean, I guess I can see the argument for how you'd want to just like keep quiet and hope that you could get away, but
I just meant like during the times when she's clearly looking over her shoulder while she's running, and he's just right there in the street behind her.
yeah, I think like maybe something that doesn't read to us in the same way that it would have to audiences at the time is how terrifying that Vincent Price's makeup effects are. Like I think they look really great, but at the same time they're like
Very
not
dated.
Yeah, they're very dated. But like one of the bits of trivia that I came across in my research for this was that Vincent Price, while they were filming this movie, on the days when he had his makeup on, got basically banned from the studio's commissary because he like walked in one day with the face makeup on, and one of the clerks almost passed out, and like every one of the customers just left. So like, I think the how monstrous he looks to the people at that time just doesn't read to us in the same way that it did then. So maybe like in her mind, what she's seeing is genuinely this like inhuman monster, and the idea that like you're gonna yell for help and any sort of human help is gonna fend off this monster is
Okay, that makes more sense. Because like even the cops like no human could look like that. And I'm
yeah
like, it's a burned dude.
yeah
My immediate thought, which is stupid on so many levels, was like, haven't you seen The Goonies? The dude
I
from
haven't
The
seen The
Goonies. Sloth love chunk. But did watching this movie make you want to see other Vincent Price movies?
Yeah, I would definitely watch some more.
Nice.
He was enjoyable in this. I wanted to go back a little bit to what you were saying about like none of the other characters feeling quite as compelling.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Because I definitely agreed with that. Like, Sue is not really an interesting character in any way.
No, she was not a fun heroine at all. I didn't root for her at all. Other
Yeah.
than my human decency to not want to see other people get boiled alive in acid. I mean,
Yep.
Wax.
And I kind of felt like or at least I had some suspicions maybe she's like not the strongest actor either, especially there's if you remember right after the scene where she runs away, she's like in that house and she's crying, but I don't know this for sure.
Over her.
That's what I thought. I think that the reason that her face is covered is because she couldn't like act good enough, and so they had to like cover her face, and she would mime crying while you couldn't see her face, and then they would like dub in the voice.
Because I was looking at her lips, and they didn't look like they were moving the right way. So I was like,
yeah,
okay, cool. We're movie brothers.
yeah. But so I wanted to talk about her though, because she's one of the big differences from the 33 version.
Okay.
In the 33 version, the protagonist is a spunky reporter by the name of Florence Dempsey. And she's a really fun character who I really liked. Like, she's always poking around where she's not supposed to be and taking risks. And, like, the guy who she's flirting with is always like, man, you're too dangerous for me, you know? And she has some really funny lines, too. Like, there's this one where she gets a lead. She's like going to have lunch with her friend, and then she gets a lead and is like, I gotta take off right now. And her friend's like, what about lunch? And she says, I'll have it for supper. And then she just runs off. Or there's a scene where she's trying to get this guy to help her, and he won't help her. And she says, all right, then you can go to some nice warm place. And I don't mean California.
Is your ideal woman just a reporter from the 1930s?
I don't think that's my ideal woman, but she's a fun character. She tells one guy, I'm going to make you eat dirt, you soap bubble.
What? You soap bubble?
I know, it's the weirdest insult.
I mean, Hitler hadn't happened to the whole world yet, I guess, so that's the level of insults that existed then.
But also, there's in the 33 version, one of the things that's going on is that the bodies that, so it's not the name of the character in the 33 version isn't Gerard, it's actually Igor.
Yeah, I just looked it up really quick.
Igor.
Ivan Igor, and I was just like, oh.
Yep. O'Dervick says soap was frowned upon in the 30s. There you go. That's sort of funny. But anyways, so
I think he's joking.
Okay, well.
Dirty 30s.
Anyways, Igor has been, in addition to the like assistants that he has, he's working with this guy who's a bootlegger.
Mm-hmm.
And he will like hide the bodies in the bootlegger's establishment. And Florence breaks in to like find out what's going on there. And she finds one of the bodies in that establishment, and then like goes to get the police and brings them there to see the body. But by the time they get there, they've switched the body, and it's just like a crate full of booze. But it's a pretty funny scene because like after that, all of the like cops are like, all right, it's time for us to go. And then they like start leaving the room, but she stays behind and starts pulling the booze out of the casket to take with her. And the cops turn around and are like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm taking my percentage. I know you're going to take yours. She was a great character. It made me laugh
she
a lot.
Sounds head and corpse booze is best. She sounds head and shoulders more interesting than Sue.
Yeah.
Another, because overall, no matter what I say during the course of this podcast, I recommend this movie and I liked it, but they're just because I can never be happy about anything. There's a bunch of stuff I want to poke at it. I don't quite understand like how, well maybe, now that I'm thinking about it really quickly, is how Gerard like got the people to work for him the way they do.
Yeah, that so I guess you can make the argument with the one guy, I guess like he's an alcoholic and maybe he'll just do whatever it takes for money. That feels pretty flimsy, but yeah. I'll give it to them. In the 30s version, he was actually a heroin addict. But because of the production code that was in place in 53, they weren't allowed to mention drug addiction at all, so they had to change him to be an alcoholic.
Okay, like that would make, because like really strong narcotics. Well, I mean, even alcohol is life ruining. But I've seen people in like really heavy narcotic withdrawal, and I'm like, okay, I could see that person being like, fuck it, let's put crayons on a corpse as long as it gets me on that dragon ride again.
Yeah, and then I guess with so the mute is called Igor in the 53 version, right?
Did he
That was his
look
name.
like oh fuck, the actor, I can't, the guy who plays Thanos?
Oh, I haven't seen I guess I've seen him in the commercials. He does look a little like him. He's the guy from he was in the Magnificent Seven though. The guy who plays Igor.
Wait, was he the cowboy? Like the big cowboy? Bald guy?
Yeah, he was
fuck, what's his name?
when I find his name on IMDb, I'll say it, and you'll be like, "Oh shit!"
I know. I think I know who you're talking about.
Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson, yeah. Because Charles Bronson looks a lot like because I knew it couldn't be the Thanos guy because the age. Fuck, what is that guy's name now? I'm gonna Google that too. Just waste a whole bunch of time. It's Josh Brolin. That's who it is. Before I even had to finish. That's like that looks like Josh Brolin, but it's not because it's time. But I didn't pick up that was Charles Bronson. Now I completely do not believe that Scott could have taken him in a fist fight. That's ridiculous.
Oh man, Scott was such a shitty character.
They were all like, he was just like a shitty idiot.
Yeah. One of the things that really made me laugh about Scott is that scene where he's hanging out with Sue and she's still upset and he's decided to take her to like a cabaret place to calm her down. He tells her it's to bring her back to a sense of normalcy, and I'm just like, you fucking buffoon. Like,
I mean, it's like after you see someone get murdered for heroin in the middle of New York City, you just go home and you watch porn. It's how you helps your brain reacclimate to how society works.
It made me laugh because in my head I was juxtaposing it to that scene in Taxi Driver where Robert De Niro takes the character that he's in love with to a porno theater. I was like, this cabaret club is like an erotic thing for guys, so like, why are you bringing an upset woman to it?
The upset woman thing I can understand being stupid, but I've seen a lot of depictions of like really upstate, like, because that looked like a very nice club that they were in. Having a mix of men and women, like having a woman there wouldn't be super weird from what I've seen. Like, even in I like to give Rockstar, the game company, credit for being very accurate with their stuff because they do a lot of work. There's a couple missions where you like go with your romantic interest to a cabaret club to watch people dance and you just talk while it's happening. So, but I
guess maybe I just like don't know a lot about the culture at the time. It's hard for me to imagine a lot of I don't know. Sue seems like a character who'd maybe be a little bit too much of a prude.
Sue seems like a wet mop given consciousness.
Yeah. But I just thought that was funny though.
That scene did make me very hungry though. Like because I was like stopped paying attention to what was happening and like oh, that's that sausage sandwich with a fresh homemade sarsaparilla. That sounds fucking delicious. And then I was like, wait, this is a movie about people dying. That's right. Okay, back on track. I was like, I wonder how much cocaine was in that soda.
I don't know, but someday we should hang out and drink sarsaparilla, though.
I thought we were going to drink a cream soda.
We can do it all.
We can just drink every soda.
Yes.
On stream. Soda stream.
Could do those like Uncle Lester's sodas. Have you seen those?
Are those like the ones where it's like bacon flavored?
Yeah, and they supposedly taste horrific.
I've had the bacon one.
Oh yeah? How was it?
Not horrific. I guess like I just have a pretty high not standard, but like tolerance for like, that's not very good, but I'm not like, Jesus, this is terrible. But
Well, for Will's sake, I know that company makes a ranch soda. Hello? Oh, man.
he doesn't have any power here. He's gonna drink that soda.
Oh, man.
Everything's okay now. We're gonna make it. Will's gonna finish Alien Isolation and then pop open a ice cold bottle of Hidden Valley Ranch.
Oh, no. He needs a reward after he gets through that.
Oh,
He's been doing a good job.
He's being a good sport. Something good will happen, I'm sure. But that does just carbonated ranch does sound pretty gross. Trying to think of some other stuff. Like nothing really in the movie felt super like revolutionary.
Yeah. I imagine like one thing that we probably just completely missed out on since we're watching this on normal TVs and without the like red and blue sunglasses is the like 3D effects. I know that was kind of a like big deal at the time, and there were a couple places like once I realized that the 3D thing was going on, I like looked back at the movie and was like, oh yeah, I can see some things that I like. In the fight scene at the start, there's that mace.
Yeah, they throw it right at the camera.
Right by the camera. And I'd taken a note of that because I was like, that's an interesting way for them to have staged this fight. And then I like realized the 3D thing and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I wonder if it sounded like it hit some of the equipment because the camera jostles a little too. So I was like, fuck, did he fuck that up and just throw that into the camera? And they're like, we can't refilm this.
It's pretty, I mean, he might have. That, so that scene, the fire apparently got out of control while they were shooting it. But they had to keep shooting because the cost of replacing those wax mannequins was so high that it was like, you gotta get it in one. So like definitely he could have hit some shit by accident and they would have kept rolling.
But yeah, that and then like even the very end shot of the movie is like a 3D like bait shot where he's like, and then this head will grow a long beard.
Oh man, I hated how slide whistly the end.
That was bad. That was not what I was expecting to be the end of this movie.
Yeah. But something that's kind of interesting or funny with the 3D effects, though, is the director of the movie, Andrei Datoth, was actually blind in one eye, so he couldn't see the 3D effects. And apparently, like, when they would go to rushes, the other people there would be kind of, like, freaking out, and he would have to ask, like, what's everyone so excited about? Because he just couldn't see it.
I did wonder, like, I would love to see a recording of people watching this movie. Because I know there's the very famous, like, early movie, like, I used to know the name of it. It's not Birth of a Nation, because that's the weird racist film. The Great Train Robbery.
Oh, the one with the train coming
The
at
Great
the
Train
screen.
Robbery, where, like, you see it come in, and, like, people are falling out of their seats, because they're like, good lord, the train!
Yeah.
If people, like, during the paddleball scene were just like, whoa! We just got out of World War II, and this is crazy. But like, especially like when he's talking to the audience and he's just like, "Oh, going into your popcorn bag now, ha ha!"
Oh man, yeah, they're really playing it up. But I don't know. One of the things that I read, some critics had speculated on, like why this movie still holds up pretty well, is because the director couldn't see the 3D effects. He wasn't focused on them, so they're like not a thing that the whole movie is built around, except for the paddleball scene. They're just a thing that's in a movie, and it had to be like good around it.
Yep. It's the same reason that Jaws 3D still holds up today.
I've never seen Jaws.
Jaws is good. Jaws 3D is a giant pile of shit. As is Jaws 4: The Revenge.
Yeah.
Where a shark follows a helicopter from one continent to another.
as sharks are wont to do.
And then it breaches and roars before being exploded.
Sounds pretty goofy.
It's pretty bad. Spoilers for that movie, but there's a freaking laser on its here. I know what you meant. Man, I haven't seen Austin Powers in so long. There was weird talk that there's going to be another Austin Powers movie.
That would be interesting.
I would watch it, if especially with just sort of how, like, aside from the newest Dumb and Dumber, which was garbage, like how modern things have been handling like references to the past. If it was like a weird, like retired Austin Powers who is like really introspective, and just everyone else just treats him. Well, actually, I guess in the normal movies, basically everyone treats him like a stupid putz anyway for being like a weird '70s horn dog.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm excited for the new Bill and Ted, sort of, mainly because I just like Keanu Reeves. He's a good person.
he's a good person.
That is not. That is one of my goals, is to get Keanu Reeves on this podcast.
That would be pretty great.
It's never going to happen,
so
but if it does,
tweet at him.
oh my god. I feel like he would be someone who would actually reply and just politely decline. And I'll just be like, thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know though. He might need a little bit more wider exposure though. You know, he's really got to take advantage of our huge audience.
Yep. I mean, Dervik probably's never even seen him. Dervik needs to be but once Keanu has the Dervik exposure, then his career will really take off.
That's true.
I forgot George Carlin was in Bill and Ted. Oh, it's been so long since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, I also haven't seen it in a long time.
I just don't even know what the new one's going to be about.
But
anyway, back to the movie that's behind my head. Did you have any cool trivia for us that you have left over?
Yeah, I did have a couple of miscellaneous facts. So, one thing that's kind of interesting is Nedrick Young, who plays Leon, who is the alcoholic assistant, went uncredited because he'd been blacklisted during the Red Scare.
Oh.
Yeah.
I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was sort of funny, like, looking at, not funny maybe so much as, like, retroactively terrifying to think about, like, the fact that there was a time in America where, like, freedom of speech was really impaired in that way, you know, like, not just that, also like the things that they were having to change for the production code.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it makes me happy to live in a time and place where that isn't the case.
Now we just have different problems.
One sort of interesting thing is that this movie was shot and edited really crazy fast. So DeToth, the director, had presented the idea to the studio and was given a budget of $1.25 million. And 33 days later, he had finished filming. And then 16 days after that, it was in theaters. And the total amount that he used of his $1.25 million budget was about $600,000. So good on him, I guess.
Did he get to keep the rest of it? Like, that's
yeah, I don't know.
So that just means, like, the next time he wants to make a movie, they're like, here's $5, and he's just like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
But that's nuts.
I guess the change of Ivan, or even Igor's name, to Henry Girard was apparently made so as not to upset Russian viewers. One thing that I learned in my research is that I actually hadn't seen all of the houses and all of the wax. because apparently in the 1960s there was an attempt to make a television pilot for it. But the footage for that television pilot was deemed to be too extreme for network TV. And so they added more footage to it and stretched it into a 99-minute long feature film called Chamber of Horrors. And I think that one is fairly different from House of Wax. But at least it was like born originally as a pilot for a House of Wax TV series.
Chamber of Horrors. That name sounds familiar. Am I crazy? I think I just read the synopsis for this at one point when I was just bored at work one day, and I was just reading synopses for like all of the horror movies that had come out since 1935. So I was like, that sounds really familiar. The poster is very interesting. Guy has a razor hand.
So you remember the scene in this where Scott is getting put into the guillotine and he's going to get his head chopped off.
Yep.
Apparently the prop that they were using was an actual guillotine, and the actor who was playing Scott, Paul Pierce-Sterney, felt that it was way too dangerous and just refused to do it.
Oh, is that why it's behind him?
Well, no, DeToth fired him. But then, the studio forced him to rehire him, though. And after that, they modified the prop to make it less dangerous. But even with the modifications, he would only allow them to do one take. So, like, all of the footage from that is shot in one take.
One thing I thought about that's kind of weird is because he has the guillotine set up, like, for the show.
Yeah.
Is that the head is clearly, like, connected to the body by, like, a wooden peg. Is that he'd have to replace that every time. So he could, like, do that, like, once or, like, twice a day. I don't know. That just seems like a dumb way to show that off. In, like, in the reality of it, it's like you're destroying part of your sculpture every time you do that.
I mean, I feel like you could pretty easily make a replaceable wood dowel piece. Like, that's not a huge expenditure. What I would be worried about if it was my wax creation is that, like, when that head hits the floor,
exactly,
it's gonna get deformed. Yeah.
Well, the thing I was saying with the dowel, though, is it's still touching it so that when the impact hits, when it's being hit down, the dowel inside the socket is going to move up slightly. And just the repeated hits, it's eventually going to, like, pop that socket. So it's like, it was just weird. Like,
I mean, I guess the heads are hollow inside, though.
I guess it's true. I don't know. So. It felt weird, like, if this was a thing in real life, the head would never attach to the body. It would just be on the other side of the guillotine thing, so when it dropped, it would fall off and make it look like it cut through it. But the way it was shot, you can clearly see that it is cutting through a thing attached to the body, and I was just like, what are you doing, Vincent Price, aside from being a crazy person who puts corpses into... And then I stopped talking, because I was like, oh. Answered my own question, because he's putting dead bodies into artwork.
As you do when you're a crazy person.
With deformed hands.
Yeah. So there were a couple like other small things from the 33 version that I thought were kind of interesting.
Okay.
One is that you don't see the murder of his business partner on the screen in the 33 version. You just see like after it's happened and been staged as a suicide, and then you see like his body getting carried out, but there's like a sheet draped over it. The other thing that I thought was pretty cool in the 33 version is that Igor's wheelchair has these like hand covers that go like over the wheels, and he puts his hands under them so you can't see his hands most of the time, which like I thought was a really interesting way to kind of like play up his feelings about his burned hands.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all the facts that I have.
Those are good facts. I mean, like, we're at an hour. That's about usually how long we talk about a movie, so...
Yeah.
We're doing it. We're keeping on schedule. So, yeah, if you take away anything from this podcast, go give this movie a check.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, so we'll move into, if you have nothing else to say, we can move into the next part.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good.
All right, so talking about the times games have scared us the most. And I was going to ask Robert, would you like to start this off? Do you have any times from video games that have spooked you, or would you like me to start?
Yeah, I mean, do we want to start with like the most scared I've been from a game, or do we want to start with some of the lesser spooks
we'll
and
build
build
to
up?
it, I guess. Now that you've set the anticipation bar high.
One kind of like one that's been classic to me over the years that I just remember being really eerie is from the first Condemned. The scene where you're in that like old shopping mall, and specifically the part where you're in the room that has the dead Christmas tree, and there's that like Christmas music that's playing, but it's like clearly been playing too long, and so it just sounds weird and creepy. That scene I remember getting me pretty spooked out when I played that game.
It's a good one. Let me say, one I was thinking about it, like, because I've been very vocal about the fact I'm not normally scared by video games, just because, especially survival horror video games, because like I go into them knowing this is a game, it can't hurt me. So a lot of the things that spook me came from not horror games. Like I remember the game growing up that had like the most parts in it that freaked me out was Mario 64.
Oh, yeah, I remember as a kid getting scared in the Boo House, but that was also like my favorite level.
The piano suddenly coming to life with a giant mouth and chasing you around a room while making these gnashing piano sounds scared the shit out of me as a little kid. And I think I almost cried.
That one was scary. The one that I remember as a kid that like I hadn't thought of until you said that, but it was scary as hell as a kid, was the like re-deads in Zelda Ocarina of Time, and also just the like was like the sewer. It wasn't called the sewer temple, but whatever that temple was. That
are you talking about Dead Hand?
Yeah,
when you go into the well under Kakariko Village, and he's like,
yeah,
that guy's fucking weird. That one, and then also the eel from the one underwater level in Mario freaked me out.
Yeah,
I was like,
man, I remember that.
I was like, no, and then like it got out and started swimming around, and I was just like, fuck, it's gonna eat me. And then I was like, oh, it just swims in a circle and doesn't give a shit about you.
The AI wasn't there yet.
I think because it was just there to just be chilling, and you're just in its way. But that being chased by things that want to eat me in water has always freaked me out. So like anytime like I have to get into water and there's like a shark somewhere, I'm just like, no. Like in I was trying to think, what was the scariest shark I've ever had to deal with in video games? Far Cry 3 had moments where you had to swim and there were sharks, but the most time I just could feel going, like, not that I was scared, but I could feel my gut tightening up, is it's an optional mission in GTA 5 where you have to collect all these pieces to a sub, and there's just one that is at the very bottom in this den of hammerhead sharks. And the thing that sucks is like it's not a game that's really built for like doing that, so there's no like strategy you have. It's just luck whether or not you can get to the bottom before you're just murdered by sharks. And I was just like, oh, the whole time I was just under the water.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about like water stuff. That's one that like the idea of there being a big thing under the water has always been super creepy to me. And I remember as a kid, like watching some dumb thing on History Channel about the Loch Ness Monster and then being afraid to go to the bathroom because it might come out of the toilet.
Understandable.
As Loch Ness Monsters are wont to do.
Trying to think of some other because I have my one horror thing that I remember. Like I only really have one moment in my brain where I remember being legitimately scared by a game, and I'll save that for the end, like you're saving yours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have some others from non-horror games that I don't think would get you, but they get me,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is heights in games.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If
There's
you remember, like when we were playing Dark Souls 3, you remember I had to like, there's that invisible bridge that you had to walk
yes,
across,
yes, I.
and that is the worst. I remember something in, I think it was Half-Life 2, had like a moment where you're going across like a huge bridge or something,
I'm trying to
and
remember.
that one freaked me out, I remember.
I'm just trying to think of like some other really big ones. And anyone in chat have any moments where you've been freaked out in games? Please chime in. We want to hear from you. Maybe we'll be like,
Indeed.
oh yeah, I remember that. That did make me go. I'm just. I know there's been parts of games where I've been like, oh, fuck, that spooked me. Like, when I was recently playing Resident Evil, I didn't expect to be scared by anything in that.
Hmm.
And I really wasn't, because it's an older, even though it's very new, it's still like an older game, but just there was one time where I was coming down the hallway and like the way the camera was set up, the door just flew open and there was just a zombie coming out the door and I was just like, I didn't know they could fucking do that, and I just went, oh shit. And that spooked
That's a
me
game
pretty
that
good.
like has some moments that scare me. I guess I haven't played it since I was in like high school probably, but I don't know, like I think I'd mentioned before that Lisa freaked me out just because monsters that chase you and you can't kill them just like terrify me. Um,
Alright, for the first chainsaw baghead kill was very. Yeah, that was startling. Getting killed by Dr. Salvador.
yeah, the chainsaw guy doesn't get me as much. The one in RE4 that really gets me is the
The,
regenerators.
the Iron Maiden one.
Yeah, that's the regenerators.
No, the one that has spikes is called the Iron Maiden.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because when you shoot
But
it, it
yeah,
does.
like
Then I'm like, oh god. When you shoot off its legs, and it have you done that where you shoot off all of its limbs and it chases you?
uh
Fucking go back and just do that. It's that because the
I
like
don't want to.
it freaked me out. It got Will really good the first time he did it because he's like, I'm just gonna shoot him and run past him because he just didn't want to deal with it, and it can chase you without any limbs really fast while making
I
spooky
hate that.
noises.
I hate even thinking about that. Yeah, because like the raspy way that it breathes is so fucking creepy.
Trying to think, RE4, which didn't really. Man, RE4 is so good.
It is.
I hope they just remaster. I hope they remake that game. And if it's as good as 2 was, but just staying true to what RE4 was.
Yeah.
No, fuck it. Just make RE4, but make it scarier. I would be super down for that. When you're being chased in the sewers by the... Fuck. It's not the Navistadors, because that's... Whatever the weird, like, executioner thing is that, like, tail shoots out at you, and then you...
Yeah, and you have to shoot the like cryo tanks.
Did you kill it and get the piece of the crown?
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you use the rocket launcher and kill it in one hit?
No,
Oh. Because you can get a
I
free...
used the rocket launcher on Sandor.
Sandor?
No, the Napoleon guy,
Oh, Salazar.
Salazar.
Oh, okay. Did
Yeah,
it kill
he
it in
got-
one hit?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never
Well-
thought to do that.
So I hit his like eye first with some bullets to get him to
Yes.
go into like but then one rocket launcher shot killed him.
Interesting, because, like, I just know the only way you can get that crown piece is to kill that guy, and it's such a waste of ammo to shoot him with normal guns, so I always just
Oh yeah.
freeze him and then point blank him with a rocket, and then you get the piece of the crown, and then because the game's like, it'll be 5 minutes before the door will open, and then you freeze the guy, blow him up, and the game's like, never mind, the door's open now. Fucking ruined everything.
No, I spent a lot of time on that boss fight killing him the good old fashioned way.
But I'm trying to think. I know there was something from Zelda that, like Zelda Ocarina of Time, that freaked me out, but I can't remember what it is. I didn't really think the Redeads were that scary because they basically just cuddle you until you die.
I mean, that scared me as a
Oh,
kid. But
Wall Masters. Wall Masters scared the shit out of me when I was a little kid.
What are
Those are the
walnuts?
hands that drop down from the sky and grab you and pull you back to the
Yeah,
start of the level.
those are pretty creepy.
The first time that happened, I thought I had died, and then it went from a thing of being like I was like they grabbed me, I'm like, oh no, I'm dead, and then it brought me back that I was like, oh, that's stupid, that's not a thing, until I realized that they could fucking do that like way late in the dungeon, and then I became angry at them. So it was like this weird flip of oh spooky to it's nothing to oh my god, this is the worst enemy.
Oh man.
I'm trying to think if there's really nothing from Donkey Kong 64 that freaked me out. Trying to think of like old N64 games.
Yeah.
Have you played? I'm hoping you'll say no, so I can make you play it when we move up there. Have you played Eternal Darkness Requiem?
I haven't. No.
Yes.
I definitely like to play it.
It's really good. And I don't think it'll be the type of horror game that you're just like, no, I can't handle it. You'll just be like, this is weird, and I like it. Because I think that's probably the best Lovecraftian game I've played. But it has two very famous jump scares in it, and I was just wondering if either of them had gotten you. But since you haven't played it yet, I won't spoil them.
No, I like spooky games. They're like, even if it gets too spooky for me sometimes, I'm happy to try. So
I do want to ask, because I haven't had a chance to, but when you were watching us play Amnesia, how spooky pantsed were you during the water section?
that was the one that was like, ooh, I hate this.
Just invisible splashes.
I was pretty spooky pantsed.
I had a friend in college who, I guess I would have to say in retrospect, was very masochistic towards himself because he hated horror games, but like, he hated being scared, but he liked playing horror games. And he got to that section of the game, and I was just kind of standing there watching him, and the thing ran at him, splashing for the first time, and he did something I'd never seen a human in real life do. Is he suddenly he went, "Huh!" That was about the noise he made, and then he picked up his keyboard, flipped it so the keys were facing downwards, and then just quickly smashed it down onto the table. Like in just like half a second. Like that was just his impulse of no!
I'm out.
And when he did that, it fucked up his game, and he didn't have to get killed by the water creature, so he won.
Well, there you go.
But
pretty clever thinking.
Remember, the game can't kill you if you kill your computer. I keep having like one that keeps popping into the back of my brain, like, do you remember this? And I'm like, no. Oh, there was an internet list I wanted to look up. But do you have any other ones before we move into our big ones?
Yeah, I mean, I've got plenty of other little ones.
Let's hit me with just like a not rapid fire, take as long as you want, but
yeah. So, and I know this is a game that, as I recall, you don't care for that much, but I really liked Doom 3 when I played it back in the day. And I felt like the mechanic that it had, where you would have to swap back and forth between a flashlight and a weapon so you couldn't attack and see at the same time, was really effective.
Yeah. I don't dislike Doom 3, I just don't think it's a good Doom game. That's my only thing. It's not what a Doom game is. It was a first person survival horror-ish game that they're like, this is Doom.
Yeah.
Like, but it's not.
It was
Doom.
the first Doom game I ever played, so that was what Doom was to me.
Gotcha. Do you remember Ravenholm from Half-Life 2?
Yeah.
That freaked me out pretty hard. The head crab zombies are terrifying.
Yeah, they're pretty scary. My recollection was, though, that did you get like the gravity gun or something in that section?
Yes, it was a little before that, but yeah, that was the first one where it's like you can pick up saw blades and throw them.
Yeah, because I remember I was just like having so much fun with the saw blades that I wasn't too freaked out. But
it was just him, like, just hearing like the screams and torment of these still alive people having their heads bitten on just freaked me out a lot. That is one of my weird, like, horror hang-ups, is the idea of just being piloted by something else.
Yeah.
But remembered a thing that probably freaked me the most out when I was young, and it was the drowning sound in the old Sonic games. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's not like coming into my head, but I know I've heard the sound before, and I remember it being like kind of distinctive.
It would just be like, it would just start playing this like whatever, and then he would just drown and die, and that freaked me the fuck out when I was little. I was just like, no. Let's see, looking at lists of scariest moments in non-horror games.
Did you ever play any of the Fatal Frame games?
Yes, I know I played one. I played one of them on PS2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one of them on Xbox, but I never got to finish it because the disc was kind of scratched up.
Oh.
And that's a game that I've always really wished someone would like port to a modern console or computer that I could play it on. Because I think like the way that it works is really cool, like the idea of using a camera, but it also like builds a lot of tension because your vision gets so much more narrowed when you're using it.
Mm-hmm. Those are good. I thought I had it. That reminds me of something else, but I can't think of what it is.
Well, I have another one from a not scary game that scared me as an adult, but it wasn't while playing the game, and it wasn't really the game's fault, but it's sort of a funny story. I mean, it wasn't funny to me at the time, but
okay.
This is the story of the first time that I ever had a legit panic attack.
Oh no.
Which this was like in college. I'd started taking like caffeine pills, and as you might recall, I also was a cigarette smoker in college.
I actually totally didn't remember that until Will brought that up, and he's like, "Yeah, he used to smoke," and I was like, "What?"
But yeah, so that's like a lot of stimulants to put into your system.
I bet.
And the first panic attack that I ever had came during that period of time. And at the time that it happened, I had been researching this like creepypasta urban legend thing about the Lavender Town song from Pokemon causing some kids in Japan to commit suicide. Where there's like this creepypasta story about the original Pokemon carts, the Lavender Town song would like make people go crazy. And so I was like researching that, and someone had uploaded that version online, and I like had my first panic attack while it like started while I was listening to that. And that was a pretty intense experience. But
I bet it would be. And thank you for coming back, Mr. Perp. We missed you.
Indeed.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd recommend not doing that.
I will try to not smoke while taking supplements and then listening to audio that supposedly makes people kill themselves.
Yep.
I'll just do it. No, but I'll start with it because I can't really think of any more off the top of my head because like I'm the truest gamer, alpha gamer, so I'm never really scared. So my list was very short. But the one moment from a game that made me jump back while watching the game, like while playing the game, I had to go, ugh, and almost fell out of my chair, comes from Condemned 2, which I want there to be a PC port of that game so bad. Because up until like the last 30 minutes, it's like probably the best survival horror game I've played. And then the last 30 minutes of it just shit its own pants. And I was just like, oh, but why? And it is such a not like it's this level where you're out in the woods, and it's such a simple scare in terms of like what's getting set up is they're just like dude, there's a fucking bear out here. And I'm just like, okay, there's a bear out here. I'll probably have to shoot a bear with a gun. But then as you're just playing through this level, like you start finding like horribly mauled corpses and you're like, yep, there's a bear here. Bears are bears. I've killed bears in games, not in real life. So it's going to be fine. And then you get to like where the meat of the level is, and it's in like this really big, nice cabin that's been all fucked up by fuckery. And you hear outside, you hear the enemies be like, "Oh, the bear is here. We chased it off with bullets, so we're fine." And then for a long time, the bear is not brought up again. And you're just like, okay. And it gets to the game's credit, and it might just be because I was even more dumb years and years ago that I'm like, I forgot about the bear. And then there's just a point where you're in the basement and you're just doing stuff, and there's there's a mechanic in the game where you like look through peepholes. And I'm just going to and then I was like, oh, I have to look in this peephole. And as he like puts his hands up and starts bringing his head in to look in the peephole, the bear's head smashes through the wall of this basement. And there was just this mix of like, oh, fuck, a bear. Why is there a bear in the basement? And then the thing that got me the most is like up in the top right corner, like is your objective constantly. And it's normally like, find clues for the murder, pick up a wrench or something. But as soon as the bear's head slams through the wall, the objective just changes from investigate the crime scene to run for your fucking life. And you just run around and you just get chased through an indoor narrow environment by this big bear in first person.
Oh, man.
And that freaked me out. And then I was like, how? And then you blow it up. Spoilers. I was like, how did this bear get in here? And this bear had just dug its way down and just had busted in through the side of this underground basement wall. And I'm just like, fuck, that would have been so terrifying in real life.
Yeah, that's a dedicated bear.
But, yeah. That is the only moment in my memory where I remember going, God! And, almost falling back. Even Five Nights at Freddy, which is an entire game just based on jump scares.
Yeah.
At most, that made me kind of go, you got me, little jump scare. But that hit me good.
Yeah, that is a pretty good one.
Another one that I saw on a bunch of lists, because I was looking scariest moments in non-horror games, which I don't think it hit me the first time I was playing as much, but the second time I was like, oh, that is fucking weird, is, do you play, I'm sure you played Fallout 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Allendale? Yeah, it's Allendale.
No.
It's this town at the southernmost point of the map. And it's just this pristine looking neighborhood of 4 houses that look like bombs didn't hit them at all. And you can walk into everyone's houses and everyone's really nice to you. But then one of the families is like, hey, you can come for dinner. Just don't go in the fucking basement. And then there's not a mission involved in this location at all. But then, of course, if you go into the basement, you learn that they are cannibals and they have been eating people. But, if you were just being a normal person who wasn't... Because, you, have to break into their basement. So if you're like, I'm being a no-crime person, that town to you would just be like, oh, man, look at this nice town of normal people. Because the game does a really good job of not being you should go in the basement.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, just don't go in our basement, okay? Because that's where we keep all of our shit. And we'll let you go anywhere except there. Because they just make it sound like we don't trust outsiders to go down where all of our supplies are because you'll try to steal them. But it turns out, no, we just don't want you to go into the basement and find out that we're probably going to eat you.
I mean, that is where they keep their supplies of human meat.
That is true. But yeah, that was really creepy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when I played Fallout 3, though, I also ate people, so...
Hey, we're all our own monsters sometimes.
I think I got that corpse eater perk pretty early in that game. I mean, it was a good perk.
Yeah, food. Anytime you want it, because you're killing all the time forever.
Yep.
I'm trying to think, Have you played Deadly Premonition yet?
Mm-mm.
Okay, this is not a spoiler for like any events that happen in the game, but I was trying to think of just things that like really creeped me out, and my brain started thinking about enemy attacks in games that made me really uncomfortable. Like there's one in Sekiro where you're fighting like this big headless demon, and it has a attack. If it grabs you from behind, it reaches into your butthole and pulls out a pearl of life essence from your butthole. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Is the zombies in Deadly Premonition, who when they approach you are bent backwards and are walking backwards towards you with their arms stretched out, is they just try to shove their hands into your mouth.
That's pretty weird.
Yep. Like that's just what they're doing, is they're just trying to climb inside of your mouth. And I'm just like, no. Please stop.
Not for zombies.
But anyway, what else you got?
I never played Dead Space 2, but the original one I remembered being pretty spooky.
Dead Space 2's eyeball scene is another one that will stay with me forever.
Maybe I'll have to play it sometime.
Dead Space. I thought you said you did play Dead Space 2.
No, I said I haven't played 2.
I thought you got you. My brain must have. I thought you said I've played 2. I haven't played the original, and then I was like, that's weird. Sorry. Yes, Dead Space 2 is very good. I think it's better than 1, even though it sort of moves a little further away from being a horror game. But yeah, Dead Space 1, I guess like the scariest thing from that one, was like the weird like tentacle barnacles.
Those are pretty scary. The thing for me is the same thing as like always. If there's a thing that you can't kill and it chases you, and there's that like regenerating necromorph thing that you can't kill and it chases you.
Yep.
That made me want to poop my pants.
Oh my god, I can't wait until they remake 3 and then I make you play 3 and you have to deal with Nemesis the whole time. Who's just like Mr. X on crack.
So yeah, that for me is like my big scare is Mr. X and Resident Evil 2 remaster.
Oh, okay.
Because like even as an adult, the way that he chases you, like I would go and find a place to hide and like legit hide for 5 minutes. Just like sitting and listening to the sound of him stomping around looking for me and being like, please move away, please move away, please move away.
So you're going to play Alien Isolation though?
I'll give it a shot, yeah.
Because like I honestly don't think Mr. X is scary, like because he doesn't do anything that's scary to me. Like he's a big dude who punches you.
Yeah.
Which to me doesn't scare me. I actually really like Mr. X's design and everything. And
yeah, no, he looks really cool. It's just because it's like that thing for me. If I can't kill it, it spooks me. It could be like a giant kitty. And I love kitties.
Can you not like? I know you can't kill him permanently until I think near the end of the game, but can't you do enough damage that he basically falls over and then he's dead for that zone for a while?
I think you can, yeah, but I don't know how much damage you have to do. And like, I don't know, I feel like you'd have to throw away a lot of ammo.
Because I remember in Resident Evil 2, and then they do it in 3 with Nemesis in the old one, is killing, like, knocking down the big target, they would drop very rare items.
Oh, huh.
So it made it, like, worth it to do it if you, like, knew what you were doing and you could do it, like, effectively. Like, so I can't remember if it was 2 or in 3, is that was the only way to get the Magnum, is you had to defeat the enemy twice because they dropped 2 parts of the Magnum and then you put them together to get the gun.
Huh. Well, maybe I'll have to try that whenever I go back to try and play that game again.
Yeah, because that's why I thought that's what you could do, but yeah, like... Mr. X just runs up and punches you, so I'm just like, that's not spooky. Like, if the...
Yeah.
Have you played The Last of Us?
Mm-mm.
Ooh, boy. That's another game we're going to have you play then. Like, that has... It doesn't have any enemies that are unkillable, but it has, like, a big chubster enemy that moves really slow, and if it catches up to you, kills you instantly. And it has a horrific killing move that, like, freaks me out. Like, it's another attack that I'm like, oh, fuck, that's horrifying to watch and think about dying that way.
Yeah. I don't know. I have like a pretty high tolerance. Like I don't like seeing like extreme gore or just like weird shit, but I have a pretty high tolerance for it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like if I'm playing a game, once I've already been caught, like I'm not scared anymore.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like as soon as the dude gets to me, I'm just like, okay, well that's kind of gross, but I'm just mad now.
Yeah, because I think what they also do, to very much to Naughty Dog's credit, is it's like every enemy has like a number of different kill animations. So the big guy has like 2 or 3 that are all gross, but like the one is he just bends you back, and then But the other thing that makes it worse for me is you're struggling in the whole time, like you're just like punching him in the arm. Is he just grabs you by your upper and lower jaw and just sort of slowly just pulls your mouth apart. And
that's pretty intense.
And you're screaming the whole time, and then like it cuts away before it finishes. And I'm just like, ugh, that's gross. Like I'm not scared of it. It's just like the first few times I saw it, I started like looking at different parts of my face model to see, and I'm like, they really detailed this more than they needed to.
Guys, stop.
But
too much detail.
I'm trying now. I'm just on the thing of thinking of enemies that chase you in games that you can't kill. 'Cause I know there's a bunch of them. Were there any in Resident Evil? Like there's things you couldn't kill? Resident Evil 4, sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Well, if not counting, I guess you can kill the regenerators, but it's not reasonable to kill them until you have the infrared scope.
Mm-hmm.
But you also get that a lot faster than I remembered.
Yeah, you get that.
When I played it this time, you can run past like 2 regenerators and then you have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered, I don't know, in my mind that section where I was just like having to run from regenerators was much longer. But I guess it just like terrified little Robert so deeply that it just stretched out in my memory.
Did you remember that you get to play a claw minigame in the dumpster section?
No, I had forgotten that, and then it happened, and I was like, this is pretty dope.
I was like, this is so stupid, but I liked it. The fact that they just cower, and they like, even though they see you pick up 2 other people, they're like, nah, if I keep standing here, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of just games where big dudes are just like, and you're just like, oh god.
Yeah.
I can't really think of any other ones.
I
guess there's sort of... Oh, sorry. In Gears of War, there's that like one female locust type that you can only like kill by hitting it with the orbital laser. That one's pretty scary. At least it was like when I was younger, because me and my friend were playing co-op and we were just going the whole time.
Yeah. I think the like Soulsborne games, I don't think they had enemies you couldn't kill, but those were some where there were like definitely some moments that were pretty spooky for me.
Yeah, going into New Londo in Dark Souls 1 freaked me out because like the ghost showed up. And I was like, aha, I'm going to hit you, ghosts. And then I swung at them, and they took no damage. And then they attack you by just extending these really, really long sickle arms and kind of, like, giving you a hug. And it's just like, ew. And they can do it through walls, so you're just like, fuck, where are they?
Yeah. I think for me, like, the parts that really scare me in games is when, like, I know there's an enemy somewhere nearby, but I just don't know, like, where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Soulsborne games seem like they're pretty good at that, where like, or even if you don't know that there's an enemy, you always know that there's the possibility that you'll walk past something that you weren't even paying attention to, and then a dude will just like pop out to say hi.
Mm-hmm. Like there's one dude in Bloodborne that like the community is, I forget what like they've named it, but he's like really early, and he's just this guy who's just around a corner behind a barrel, and it's you're like something happens and you're like, yeah, I did it, I made progress, and as soon as you turn the corner he just goes, yeah, and just hits you. And it's just like everyone gets hit by that guy. Because it's like the way they built the thing, you're just like, oh, good, I made. Like, it's right after you open a shortcut, and you're like, yeah, I'm feeling good. You turn right, and then he's just like, sup, bitch, and just hits you, and you're like, I'm not feeling good anymore.
Oh man.
The Dark Demon Souls didn't like. I was never like afraid, but that game was definitely a game I remember playing with almost like a constant feeling of anxiety. Because it was just like, oh my god, if I die, I have to do everything again, and everything beats me up. Ugh. So I got that out of my system going into Dark Souls 1, even though Dark Souls 1 still had some moments where I was just like, oh god. Oh, fuck, the Tomb of the Giants. In Dark Souls 1, where like it's pitch black, unless you put on these weird little light things that like fuck you up. Oh, that was pretty bad.
I never made it that far in Dark Souls 1, but I think I've seen some like videos of Tomb of the Giants.
Where it was like the big quadruped skeletons.
Yeah.
That place fucks some shit pretty hard. I'm trying to think if there's really anything that really ever scared me in a Souls game. Or if I saw an enemy and just was like, nope, and just like immediately started running away. I'm sure I think that happened in Bloodborne probably at least once or twice, because Bloodborne had some very spooky, wet-looking enemies that I was just like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Oh yeah, the first time I saw like the weird tentacle-faced wizard dudes. Like I saw that guy and he just like turned around and just went, nope, and just ran away from him.
Goodbye.
And then he hit me with a spell, which he could then run over and suck the inside out of my brain. That was a mix of so many emotions, that one encounter.
It's pretty rude.
I'm trying to think. Sekiro has some decent, has a good amount of anxiety factor, because that game is not fucking around. Ugh. Stop yawning, CJ. But yeah, it's about all the big ones I can really think of.
Yeah, I think we got all of mine too.
No one in the chat was really spooked. Dervik admitted that he's just not really big into spooky games, so he just never really plays them.
Well, I think if you don't like a thing, it's probably a good idea not to play it.
I just remembered one more that freaked me out, because I was trying to think of what it was, because it involved water, and it was another one from Mario 64, and it was the big bloopers. That if you just swam in the water too long, they would just go whoop and just eat you and dive right back down and kill you in an instant hit. Those freaked me out.
I don't remember that part, but
they're only in like 2 levels. I know one level. The one level that I remember them being in was the tiny big island, the one where depending on how you entered, you would either be super huge or super tiny. They were there that if you just swam in the water and they noticed you, it'd start making this like sound of them getting closer, and then if you were just normal swimming and you just stayed in the water too long, they just get you. But if you were surfing on a cool turtle shell, they would just knock you off the turtle shell. Fucking turtle shell Koopa surfing, and that was like the coolest thing in my childhood until I played Tony Hawk 64.
I also loved Koopa surfing. I remember going to play the first level just so that I could Koopa surf around.
I used to think I was a cool skateboarder guy because I got really good at like jumping onto the narrow rails, and I'd be like, I'm grinding, yeah! And then when I learned you could do it on water, I was just like, oh my god. Have you played Odyssey yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I need to play it sometime, but I guess there's like enough games coming out pretty soon that I don't feel like now is the time.
What's the next game you're looking forward to?
Well, we got Ouija's Mansion coming up on the 31st, and then the 15th of November is when the new Pokemon comes out. So
I forgot that you were into that.
That's 2 big ones.
Because I just bought my copy of Outer Worlds, so expect that to be the next subject of the Critical Diary series. I'm going to start playing that and comparing that to Fallout 4 and 3 and Vegas. I'm very excited, but unfortunately they didn't let me preload, so I have to download it now. I started trying to download it, but for some reason it just butt-punched our bandwidth, and I couldn't do it during the podcast. But I'm hoping it will be my new favorite RPG. But who knows?
Well, I hope it'll be good for you too.
Thanks, bud. Just remember to be saving up that money to buy that sick new laptop so that we can finish Dark Souls 3.
Yep.
Because we still have a ways to go.
Yeah. Was there a lot left? I assumed we were near the end, but
Did you beat the possessed dragon armor that was on the bridge?
no, I think that's about where we stopped.
Yeah, I thought that's where you... Because we kept getting booted out, so you'd have to beat it on your own. And I know you fought it like a bunch of times. No, including...
Oh, the armor. Yeah, I beat the armor guy.
Okay, what boss were we at? Did we beat the...
I think we were at the place where there were like the 2 dragons that come down. Maybe?
That's earlier. That's at the very beginning of that zone. We went
Okay,
we're way
well,
past that.
I don't remember where we got to then.
Didn't we get to Archdragon Peak?
Maybe.
The place where you had to sit down all cross-legged and then they'd take you to a new zone?
Maybe?
Because, I mean, we still have both DLCs to do, at least.
Yeah.
So we have at least 10 hours left. And the final DLC is really good. Like, it's an awesome end note to the series, so that's why I'm really excited to get there. But all right, so before we sign off, we had talked before the stream started, the movie we're going to watch is The Shining, which would you say that's probably the most famous film version of a Stephen King movie?
Probably, yeah. I'm trying to think. Maybe the one that I would say is like maybe close to as famous as Carrie.
Oh, I would say It is probably more famous than Carrie.
Yeah, but I mean, well, like as a book, it's more famous. But like, that one, like up until the recent movies, there was only the TV miniseries, which was pretty well known, I guess. But
because I had just seen so much more about It growing up than I had seen about Carrie. All I really knew about Carrie is that she gets pig blood dumped on her at some point. Like I didn't even know like she was a weird psychic girl until way later when I saw the movie.
yeah.
But okay, we're gonna watch The Shining. We still need a topic. It's gonna be Halloween, so
Yeah. Yeah, I had come up with a topic idea that I thought was a pretty good one, but then I was like, it's not a Halloween-y idea at all, so...
no one's gonna be watching anyway. It's gonna be Halloween, so... But what is your idea?
Well, my idea was for a specific kind of game jam, but the
Okay.
game jam was just goofy game ideas. So, like, it can be a game that you made from scratch, or it can be, like, a game that you've made with, like, characters from other games. Like, just trying to figure out the goofiest premises that you can come up with. I thought of it the other day when I made the joke about Mario or Sonic and Xenomorph at the Olympic Games. Like, I liked the idea of doing a game jam where you would come up with ideas that were that dumb and then like try and flesh out what that idea would look like. But
I'm fine with doing that. That sounds like it could be dumb. I'll need you to be on the lead for that until I finally get on the train. Then I'm like, all right, now I know where we're going. Sounds good. So yeah, well, we're gonna watch The Shining, and then we'll do that, and then the next week we'll start watching Christmas movies because it's November.
Perfect.
I wanted to make a joke that for next week we were gonna watch like A Christmas Carol because it's that time of the year.
Oh man.
Ugh. But anyway, I want to say thanks to everyone. Dervik, Mr.
Yeah.
Perp. Was there another one aside from Will? I thought there was someone else who popped in, but I might be crazy.
Nope.
All right. I didn't even realize there was a nice, handy little chat users in whatever. Wait. Users Commander Root, Electrical Longboard. Oh, these are people who must have just popped in to say hi. Like, what? Who are all these people?
But they didn't say anything.
Are they in chat now? I don't know. Anyway, hi.
I guess they could have like popped into view, but yeah, I've got the whole chat is still here on my screen. I can scroll through and see everything everyone said.
Yeah, I just discovered today that there's this little button up in the top right with the little person and then like the filled in person. If you click on it, it says users in chat, and that's why I was just like, wait.
Hmm.
But anyway, so yeah, we're gonna go in. I think as Zero Gravity Theater got off. Well, right into News of Dudes. They're playing Cat Quest. Oh, Cat Quest 2. I know what that game is. But yeah, do you have anything else you want to say, Robert, before we head on out?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Then let's get to the Nudes of Dudes. And tomorrow will be... Yeah, it'll probably be Moonlighter again, and then more Alien. Maybe more Alien. We have some friends coming up to visit, so we're not sure what it's going to be. I'll keep everyone updated, so stay tuned on Twitter or at the bottom of this page, which is also our Twitter feed, and we'll let you know what's going on. But, all right, until next time, bye.
Bye.